This is Community Unity Now, the D Tycoon Show. My co-host Bill Morton has to attend to family, and I am Trudy Leong, administrator of the Rogers Park Chamber of Commerce. Our very special guest today is Norman Basile. He is a paranormal investigator.
Hi, how you doing, Trudy?
Welcome, Norman.
Thank you very much for having me today. I enjoy being here.
Well, first of all, Norman, tell us why. Why did you choose this profession?
Well, I became interested. The story goes back to me and my grandmother's house when I saw my very first ghost. And I was sleeping in my uncle's bedroom. And it was a bunk bed, so I was sleeping on the top bunk. He was sleeping on the lower bunk. And I didn't really know the house was haunted until after my grandmother had told me. But during the middle of the night, I woke up, I heard something, and I looked out towards the room, and I saw this figure coming towards me. Now, I thought it was my uncle, so I screamed out, "Hey, Uncle Paul, is that you?" And it didn't answer me. So when I looked below and I saw that he was still sleeping, I got very, very frightened. So I jumped off the bed, and I actually ran through the figure that was coming towards me and straight into my mom's room. Of course, naturally after that, my grandmother had told me that the house was haunted. They didn't know exactly who by, but they saw various things like hats floating in the hallway and things of that nature. I guess from there on in, I was always interested in the paranormal world. It was later in life that I actually became interested in ghosts and demons and things of that nature, and then started my business. And it was very, very simple. I wanted to become a ghost hunter, paranormal investigator, and experience these type of things that were going on out there. And during that course, when I first started, I printed up some sheets that said wanted haunted houses. And I just pinned them up inside a college, up on their bulletin boards. And from there on in, it was amazing because I got all these calls. And I was like, okay, well, you better know what you're doing, Norman. So, I started taking classes and things of this nature. And everything from photography to psychic awareness programs, anything I could get my hands on with ghosts. I was reading all the books I can. I started collecting some equipment. Back in the early 80s and things of that nature, there wasn't as much equipment as there is now. I mean, it's an amazement how technology has actually come forward in the paranormal field. I mean, nowadays you can go to eBay, Amazon, they got a place called, they got other shops that sell you ghost hunting equipment. And, but, I have that type of stuff. But my main focus is when somebody calls me for a home, let's say. Now, I investigate cemeteries, different houses from around the country. I've taken trips into seeing plantations and things of this and all kinds of other things, places that are known to be haunted, because I do lectures, and but my main goal was if somebody called me to come into the house and they needed help getting rid of what's in the house, okay? Now, I can't guarantee we're actually gonna get rid of these things, all right? And you got to understand, it's not an exact science. So none of that equipment, all the equipment's going to do is tell me, is there something there? Possibly. We're going to eliminate things. We're going to eliminate things like, is there running water somewhere? Is there creaky stairs? Is there wind blowing through a piece of a crack in the attic or something causing cold spots or things like that? That's sort of the stuff you want to eliminate. But once you actually do determine there is something there, is it possible to get rid of something? It's possible. I mean, you could actually lower the energy that's in the house, maybe to the point where the people can actually live there. You got to understand something. When somebody lives in a house, it isn't like they can just, like in the movies, they up and run and they leave their house. I mean, they got thousands of dollars invested in their home. So they need somebody like myself who's going to actually help them. And a lot of investigators, they'll go into these houses and they say, okay, when they're done, then what? I mean, do you have someone that can help them? Can you help them? So that's is what I've done. I've not only have used the equipment, the research equipment to help me find what's there, and figure out, was it burial grounds, was it this, that, then I can go in and determine how we're going to either communicate with the spirits and find out why they're there, and maybe help them move on and remove them from the home, or bring the energy level down to the point to where the people can actually live there. Okay.
When you were young, and how old were you when you saw the first ghost in your grandma's house?
I think it was about 5 years old.
And was that entity like a male? How old was that person?
Well, I really couldn't tell you at that point. It was a figure, and if I had to say that if it was a male or female, I would go with a male. Okay, just by what I can remember as an outline, but it's hard to say. It's not like it's not Trudy. It's not as though ghosts have faces and things like that. Actually, in a lot of my research and things, that, when they tend to be a little bit more prominent, some of those, and I've seen them in spiritual photos as well, because I've done spiritual photography and I've caught these things on film. Okay, the thing is that the most of the ones that I've seen that where you can actually tell, what that is, if it's a woman or if it's a man, tend to be a little more fake. Okay, whereas somebody doctored the photographs a little bit. Not all the time. I'm not going to say all the time. I don't want anybody out there in the ghost hunting field to get mad at me. But the fact is that most of my photographs, some of them you can tell. They may have a beard. It may look like a man more than a woman. Some of mine from cemeteries actually just look like figures.
I'm so interested in that figure that you saw as a child. Was the figure wearing clothing?
I would say, hard to say. I would say that it was a little more misty, and the figure was more or less black.
Oh.
Okay, with maybe, because the door was open to the bedroom, so there was light shining through it. I could actually see a figure. But it would be hard to say that it was distinguished, that what it was wearing and what it wasn't wearing. But it was a figure.
And transparent.
Transparent, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I ran through it, So, my grandmother at that time claimed that she saw a hat, and I did not see this. Okay, now, so. She claimed that hats would come out of closets and float down the hallway and things of this nature. And this was out in Ohio, because my grandmother didn't live in the Chicagoland area for a while. She lived out in Ohio. So we would take, field trips, go on the train, go out there and see grandma and things like this. And but she just claims that these things happened,
And she wasn't upset enough to ask for help, but they
no, they kind of just lived with the spirits that were in the house at that time. And now you're talking back even further. You're talking the 1960s. So I don't know, how much in the 60s, how many actual people were doing, the ghost hunting field or the paranormal field, and how many people were actually experts in this. Even when I started in the 80s, there were very few people out there.
At what point would you say that when people come to you, what point makes their home unlivable that they have to seek out help?
Well, you've got almost like, let's put it this way. You've got 3 different types of things, maybe even 4. You've got a haunting, which can last hundreds of years, okay? Which more or less people say ghosts, and ghosts are nothing more than human beings that have passed on and haven't gone into whatever you want to call it, the light, or have gone on to the next level, okay? And they kind of hang around. It's kind of sad because, they're lonely. They probably don't realize they've passed on, and things of this nature, or they refuse to go into the light, or they refuse to go wherever they're supposed to go to next.
When you do meet them, do you feel what they're feeling? Do you feel the sadness? Do you feel the loneliness? Do you feel anything?
You can do that, especially if I do a seance. Yes, you might be able to pick up on some of the things that they are actually feeling, okay? You might be able to do it. I can also do something you call psychometry, and where you might be able to take an object and feel something. I'm also very much a devil's advocate. You got to understand something. I don't always go head first and say, oh, yeah, this is great, and da-da-da. I have to make sure that this is real. Okay, so playing devil's advocate helps me to determine whether or not it really is real. And I don't want to go in there like a kid in a candy store going, oh yeah, I believe you. Da, da, da. No, sometimes you got to take a step back, look at the research, and find out whether or not it is real before you start doing these types of things.
You mean the tools, as well as the people who are telling you that their house is haunted?
Right, right, exactly. Not only the tools, it would also be me going to libraries, city halls. Was the house over a cemetery? Was there, anything like a hospital there before, or anything of that nature, which can determine why those spirits were there or why they're exactly there. Now, we were talking earlier about the three types. Now you come into what's called a poltergeist. Okay, now a poltergeist is actually a German word. It's broken up into two words. It means noisy spirit, okay? And that's what it exactly means in German, noisy spirit. Now, poltergeist can come and go. It can be in short duration or it can be in long duration. All right? Poltergeists tend to be noisy because they move objects. They can be very, it could be either moving them where they can slam into walls and break, things could move, refrigerators, things of this nature. So it can get a little bit more, I would say, dangerous with a poltergeist than it is a haunting. Most ghosts aren't really going to hurt you. They're just going to cause noises and things, probably try to get your attention. Poltergeists are a little step up from that, okay? Now, poltergeist could also be, there's very different variations of what it could be. A poltergeist could also be a child that lives in the house going through a change of life, okay? And therefore their energy, because we all have energy in us, we're like batteries, could escape them and cause this phenomenon to happen. And if that is the case, then it would be short in duration. It wouldn't last for very long. It could be months. It could go on for a long time, like the Bell Witch case. I mean, that went on for a lot of years back in the 1800s. And no matter where the person went, it followed them because it's sort of attached to them, okay? Or something attached to your aura and goes with you. That can happen. Now we talked about the third one, which could, of course, be demonic entities. Now, demonic entities, you see a lot of times in the movies, but what they don't tell you is that the fact is that they have to be called upon. And there are a few, things out there that I saw while watching movies and things, because I'm a great movie buff. I love to be scared myself. But, the fact is that, when they always say, well, evil has to enter your house, and sometimes evil stands there and it says you have to invite me in. That's true. Evil must be invited into your house. Otherwise, they can't come across the threshold, okay? And
can a person be tricked into inviting evil into?
Absolutely, absolutely. Through Ouija boards, through seances, if not done correctly, they could tell you that they were Aunt Martha, or it's like maybe somebody's trying to contact a child that they had lost, and they could say, yes, I'm them. Okay, and that's how actually The Exorcist got started. That's a whole nother story. But then you're going to start seeing things like oppression, where they're oppressioning people in there. They're putting pressure on them. Things start to happen. Voices, you hear this, you hear that, and then that's kind of like infestation. And then oppression comes where they start attacking you, and then it comes worse where you get demonic possession, which, in my case, happens very rarely. There are many cases where it has happened. And therefore, you got to have somebody come in and do it. I don't care if it's a Catholic priest. I mean, most religions, or whatever religion you are, would probably help you more than most somebody else. Okay, so if you are Catholic, you may want a priest to come to your house. Not that I can't do it, okay, but your faith helps you a little bit more, okay? And I'm sure in everybody's ethnicity and their religion, that there's always a way to get rid of these spirits and what we believe in. Indians, everybody. Okay, shamans.
Taoist monks in China.
Yeah, monks in China, absolutely.
What about you were talking about the evil presence, the demons, and the demonic possession? What is the end goal of these entities? Do they want somebody's soul, or what is their end goal?
Well, it's quite interesting. Their end goal, of course, is hate for the world. Okay, hate for the people. Most of these things have never lived before, and I don't really want to get into the religious part of it, but they've never held human form. So human form to them is a jealousy type thing. So I guess their end goal would be to kill that person, okay? Which would, of course, offend whoever. I don't want to say, many religions, there are many religions and there are many names for energy and things of this nature. So their end goal would be to actually destroy the person.
And how would they select that person to destroy? There are 8 billion or more people on the earth. Why would they select certain people?
Well, they're going to pick on the weak mostly, okay? Anybody who's weak, anybody who maybe perhaps you've seen things like, was the child baptized? Okay, was anybody baptized? It could be an older person, it could be anybody, a teenager, it could be anybody, but were they baptized? If they're not, they're easier prey, okay? Because that allows them to enter your life. But then again, you still have to do something to bring them in. Ouija boards, black magic, things that, we don't have control over. And can they enter? Yes, they can enter. And then if somebody's on drugs or they're on alcohol, or it kind of lowers their energy a little bit, and then they can come into their life and cause these types of things. Of course, there are 8 billion people. And my question always was, you have these few cases out there. How did they just decide? Well, the thing, it's an old saying, you were at the wrong place at the right time. And that's exactly what it is, and that's how it can come about. And then it keeps getting worse. Okay? People either don't believe it, and it's just like having cancer. It's going to go through a progressional stage, and it's eventually going to break you down to a certain point.
What about being proactive? In medicine, if you're able to be proactive, then you don't have to get sick in the first place. What signs could people see that maybe their houses that it might get to that stage? But what signs could they see that they could, and what steps could they take to stop nip it in the bud so that it doesn't reach anything worse?
Well, you can use some salt. You can put salt over your doorsteps, salt in your corner. Energy tends to linger in corners, okay? And when I say energy, I mean, you could say it's the soul, you could say, call it ectoplasm, whatever you may want to call it. To me, it's all the same thing, okay? But the energy tends to go in directions like the east, the north, the south, the west. It'll tend to do that. It'll tend to gravitate towards corners. So if you really, really, really believe that you have something there and you're not sure what to do, salt is a very good thing, especially blessed salt. You can get blessed salt.
What is it? Blessed salt.
Yeah, you can get blessed salt. That's all holy water is. I mean, it's blessed salt inside the water, and then that's what actually holy water is. I mean, you can get kosher salt at any store, and that's blessed. And you can throw it in the corners. You can put it over doorsteps. They won't be able to cross over the doorsteps from your house into in. Now, my suggestion is...
Does that mean that if you put the salt there and you accidentally invite them, they still won't be able to come in because the salt is there?
Well, if you've invited them into your house, you've got a problem already.
But
okay?
if
they haven't entered yet, you can put the salt there. It is very possible to keep them out. Okay? That doesn't necessarily mean that's going to work for so long. It could. I mean, you could put circles around your feet. Like if you're sleeping at night, you could put circles of salt around your bed, things of this nature. Again, it's not an exact science. Does this stuff work? Yes. Will it work? How long? I don't know. If you feel like you're getting to this stage, I suggest seeking out help, because then you're just going to have more problems. And anybody susceptible in the house, it's going to pick on the weakest person. Okay, I mean, it's like the world. They always, everybody preys on weaker people.
Let's just do a little question about the John Gacy house. Was that evil ground in the first place that attracted Gacy to that area, or did what John Gacy did contaminate the ground, would you say?
I would say that it was what John Gacy had done. Now, that area itself, in the Des Plaines area from which he was at, okay, because he threw some bodies into the Des Plaines River. He ran out of room in the house, okay? They were talking about an evil man. You know, it's interesting to me that he could have been an evil soul to begin with, okay? He could have been something that was created, whatever you want to call it, wherever, hell, whatever you want to say, and that he was born into this. I mean, it could have been that, okay? I mean, when we look at demons in the movies, it doesn't necessarily, you know, they come from here or there. Who's to say that a demon wasn't born and it was John Wayne Gacy was a demon, okay? And he did these things. You know, he oppressed people because that's what he was meant out to do and kill them. But was the ground like that beforehand? No, there could have been a certain amount of energy there, possibly, but I believe that this man, for some reason, was evil and created evil there. He probably created even a worse atmosphere on that ground where his house was at that point. And they did tear down the whole house. I was there when the house was torn down.
What did you feel when you were there as they were tearing it down?
Well, you know, I don't know. We were, you know, the one thing that we did experience, and I was doing tours at that time. I still have my tours. The thing is that with the tours one night, the people, you know, we didn't get out, and I didn't want anybody getting out at that time because the neighbors were very hostile about everybody coming around. I didn't want anybody hurt. So what we did is they lowered the windows, and everybody had cameras, and they were taking pictures, but nobody could take a picture of the ground. The cameras jammed up, absolutely jammed up. And then as soon as we left the neighborhood, all the cameras freed up, but nobody could take a picture there. Something was stopping pictures from being taken at that particular moment. I mean, I can't say what or where. You know.
Same thing happened with Bill. He somehow got lost and he ended up there, and he tried taking a picture and his camera wouldn't work.
Yeah, well, that happens, and it happens a lot at certain other spots, not as well as John Wayne Gacy's house, but you know, I mean, you know, that's an example of a ground that was made by somebody.
What about the materials of the house and you know, the debris? Is there any special way of disposing of it? Is there a possibility that that debris is contaminated?
Absolutely. There was a case. I got some pictures that I went out there. I forgot where it was. It was way up north in the Wisconsin area. And it was even on one of the shows way back in the 80s. So anyways, I saw it and I said, okay, this is interesting. I'd like to go there. What it was a bed. And somehow these people had gone to an antique store and they found bunk beds. Okay. And they found them in the store naturally. You know, you go into an antique store, you go to a secondhand store, you find something that's very cheap, you bring it home. I mean, you know, so what it was is the bed or the object itself was somehow harboring energy in it. And that was the main cause of it. Now, what they had done, of course, is they had taken it and thrown it into a dump at that time. My suggestion would be to bury it and consecrate it, okay? Either you have somebody who's able to do something like that, or you could consecrate it yourself by getting rid of it. You could burn it. And then I would still suggesting, the ashes or something of that nature, but they did get rid of it. But I've got a picture also of a gentleman who went to Baja, Mexico, and he was digging up objects, and he wasn't an archaeologist, he was kind of like a amateur archaeologist, and he snuck some of these objects back into the United States. And we were called in because he was having an infestation in his house, and he was having some problems. And I brought with me several crew members. I had a camera guy, I had several witches with me, things of that nature, and some psychics. And we went over there, and I was basically taking pictures of some arrowheads and an axe and things that he dug up with infrared film. And I caught pictures of the energy actually coming out.
Mm-hmm. Well, yes, these are these are some of the pictures that.
Well,
I
these
don't
are some of the
remember.
pictures that I have
Yes.
taken.
Yes. Yeah, you could just describe them, like maybe three of them, and then give our viewers
Sure.
information about how they could learn more about you.
Oh, okay. Yeah, this is from the Myrtle Plantation out in Virginia. And if you take a look here in the doorway, I caught a picture of a face. Now, this does look like a gentleman because he's kind of got a distinguished look about him with a beard and things like that. I had gone on the ghost hunting trip because, again, I do lectures and things of that nature. So I had caught this one. If you look in this area with the arrow right there, you can see a face looking out at me. And actually, I think I shot this one with a Polaroid camera. Okay. This next one, I don't know if we can do it like this because this is the way it is. This is the Haunted Irish Castle at 103rd and Longwood in Chicago. And if you look in the windows here, you will see pictures of outlines of faces looking out of the castle. Okay. And this has a lot of history to it as far as, you know.
Yes. Wow. Norman Basile, could please let our viewers know if they want to learn more about what you do. How could they contact you?
I have my website, which is thedevilsknockingbook.com, or you can also reach me at 708-622-8530. If you have some problems or you just want to talk about something, give me a call or go on my website. I have knocking3times@gmail.com as well. You can email me.
Okay. Thank you so much, Norman Basile, paranormal investigator and author, for joining us on Community Unity Now, the D Tycoon Show. I am Trudy Leong, administrator of the Rogers Park Chamber of Commerce. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you again next week.